Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another beautiful installment of Shot of Nostalgia. We are episode 11, doing that deep drive straight through 1998 WWF. You know the drill. I'm good old Mike Belcaster and my host with the most, the bro of all bros.
Live from the No Sale Studios at the ACEFIELD Tavern, ACEFIELD Retro. And as you said, Mike Belcaster, it's so beautiful to have you back here. I rolled solo last week. Hope you guys enjoyed it, but there's nothing like the 10 and the dream team, the New Age Outlaws of the Turnbuckle Tavern. We are here to give you all the goodness of 1998. And this is a jam-packed episode, man. We lead right in. We have a pay-per-view and then 2 Raws, and there's so much that goes on. Like, I feel like we should just get into it immediately, but we have so much to break down. But first of all, how you doing, brother?
Dude, I'm doing great, man. Finally recovered fully back from Los Angeles, California. Hey, God damn it. It's such a good trip, man. WrestleMania was a blast. The whole weekend was so cool. Thank you for holding down the fort. As always, my grateful pal of mine, man. It was a blast. You killed it last week. And I couldn't be happier to be back in the nice warm arms of Stephen Acefield right here at Shot of Nostalgia, my friend.
I appreciate it. And you did crush it on the LA trip, wall-to-wall covers with all the figures. And you guys check out Fig Night and check out all the releases and the exclusive photos. You can't just get it Ringside Collectibles. You get the photos straight from the source itself. Mike Belcaster, all the touring of Mattel and making the connections. And there's more to come from that interaction that you had in LA. We can't reveal all. There's some things going to be piling out from this, man. This is the connections you made in Los Angeles. It's the real deal, brother.
Absolutely, man. It was an honor and a pleasure. I can't thank Mattel enough for graciously inviting me out there. It's just the tavern in general. I mean, we all had the opportunity. It was great. It was so cool, but I was so happy to be able to. You've seen the picture of me in front of the beautiful WCW Nitro lettering, man. The real deal too. That shit was all scratched up and surprisingly really awesome. Light, but it was awesome, man. I felt like I was living a Shot of Nostalgia, man. I get to see that beautiful Nitro stage that I think they're throwing Scott Steiner at us. They're giving us a little freebie if we back that bad boy to 5,000 now. So just throwing it out there. Shot of Nostalgia supporters, homies, go get yourself a Scott Steiner Ultimate figure, courtesy of Mattel. But badass, man. So happy to be here. I'm so happy to be back in 1998. The King of the Ring is unbelievable. One of my favorite pay-per-views. Possibly my favorite wrestling match of all time happens, and then we got 2 beautiful Monday Night Raws that follow. So damn good, man.
Yeah, so as you mentioned, we'll be covering WWF King of the Ring 1998, the June 29th Raw, and the July 6th Raw. So each week we're going to take you back to 1998 with 3 different events, one being a pay-per-view, 3 Raws, maybe any combination of the 3, and we're going to get you there. And hopefully in a long life, but we will most likely be able to cover all from wall to wall 1998. But do you want to get into the happy hour right now?
Oh, absolutely, man.
Let's get into happy hour and see what Dave Meltzer has to say this time, June in 1998.
Happy hour.
We could easily replace Dusty with Cody now that he's also crying.
Oh, good. You saw that live, my friend. You absolutely saw everything that went down in LA, and maybe we'll be Cody eventually down the line, but we will continue to have it Dusty. But let's hop back to June 1998, and we have a lot to break down here. And let's start with what would be the breaking news any time of the year. It would be Austin being hospitalized on Friday night after a house show in Houston due to a staph infection in his right elbow, which resulted in a high fever, said to peak at about 104 degrees, and he was hooked up to an IV. Remained hospitalized at least through Monday. Meltzer continues, it's unclear exactly where the infection came from, but it was believed to have stemmed from a bad elbow bruise that may have taken place at the TV taping during the week. Austin had contracted a mild fever by Wednesday, and he was originally booked by 2 smaller house shows in WWF that ran on 6/17, but they're holding him off. Big deal here, dude. Like, it's Austin being hospitalized in capacity. They had to be scared shitless because he's the cash cow.
Yeah, no, insane, man. I kind of vaguely remember this happening. It explains the big white giant fucking elbow pad he was rocking during King of the Ring. But listen, it's a huge deal. Your top star, staph infection. You got rocking a hard ass fever. Nothing to toy with. Nothing to take lightly. So glad that they, prioritized his health. instead of like, get on the house show, Mark. It's all good. Come on, Austin. You got it, son of a bitch. But yeah, it was great.
Well, he did work the show prior. I mean, they took him off the rest of the loop, but he worked from a sold-out Compact Center where he beat Mankind. He apparently was in great pain backstage leading up to the match and then after the match. And then they took him to the hospital because they didn't like the way it looked. But look, because those staph infections, as we know, can be very gnarly if you don't take care of them.
Yeah, 100%, man. I had to make sure I was all clean and for my bouts with FTR over the weekend in Los Angeles. But I got a gnarly ass. This thing was ripped up. I had cuts all over my face, my hands. It was insane. But you got to take care of that shit. You really do. I've seen guys like, you bite your fingernail too much and you get that extra skin that pulls. That shit could turn into a staph infection. I've seen it happen. You got to be careful, man. The blood infections are no fucking fun for nobody.
Well, we also had another top guy being injured here. An Undertaker suffered an ankle, which is believed to be a cracked ankle with some bone chips doing an angle on the 6 in Texas on location for what was supposed to be Paul Bearer's house that he was tearing up, which aired on the 622 Raw. This is so interesting to me, Belcaster, because we watch all the wrestling matches that Taker does throughout 1998. He gets hurt in a tape segment against Paul Bearer where he's just beating him up in the house. How crazy is that?
Absolutely crazy. We've seen Taker go through so much. It is an illustrious career, and like you never hear about him being injured. You never see him injured. He doesn't show it. He's kayfabe, man. He keeps it alive. But the irony of busting your shit up while you're doing a tape segment with Paul Bearer, probably one of the safest things you could possibly do, and you blow your ankle.
Well, the other crazy part is that this adds to the lore of that later 1998 King of the Ring match that we talked about, because the famous thing is obviously Taker's working with a broken ankle and all the injuries that Mankind suffers throughout the match. It just adds to the lore. But Paul Bearer also had an ankle injury because apparently Taker was throwing furniture around and something landed on his leg. And although his role at the house shows is more limited, he couldn't appear to manage Kane at the shows for the rest of the week. Moral of the story, dude, is everyone's banged up. Austin's in the hospital. Taker's broken ankle. I'm sure he had to go to the hospital and get something fixed, put a cast on it. And Paul Bearer can't go to these house shows. He's limping around with a busted ankle from that segment. It's crazy.
It's insane, man. And 98 was a rough year for a lot of these guys.
So for obvious reasons, the main concern from WWF is to have Austin and Undertaker appear at the pay-per-view. So both because they are both, there's a lot of financials at stake here and at the pay-per-view for storyline reasons. So the main this is the fallout of the depth issues that we have in 1998, because the top of the card is so strong. If you look at the mid card, there's not anyone that can really slide in that spot. We talk about the emergence of Triple H, the emergence of The Rock. Nobody can take Austin and Taker's spot, or even Kane or Foley. They need to be involved in this storyline. They would have been screwed if these guys couldn't work. Yeah,
100%. You can't half-ass it and throw, The Rock into a match with Kane. It wouldn't make any sense. They're balls deep in their own storylines. It would just throw the whole company out of order, man. It would be insane.
So Meltzer continues that they had the eventual Austin versus Taker match is expected to headline the 8:30 show in MSG for SummerSlam, which is entitled Highway to Hell. Just showed just how bad physically both of these guys have to be. For the Boston match was scheduled to be an 8-man tag. They could have just stood on the apron, but they canceled it because now they have their eye on the prize towards August. We have to limit their time in the ring. And of course you need these guys working and they're the main program, but you could find ways, especially in 1998, where you can limit the work rate and have these guys just appear on screen. So their eyes on SummerSlam, but the fact that they're canceling house shows and issuing refunds with these guys shows how badly they were really hurt.
Yeah, and also they didn't want to, mess up their cash cows, man. Austin was lightning hot. Taker is great merch sale, awesome program he's got going on right now. Really heated shit. You don't want to really fuck any of that up. So it's good that you take guys the health a little serious. Listen, they don't cancel house shows nowadays. They'll just throw Matt Riddle and Boogs at the other main event. It doesn't matter. So glad to see that they were at least thoughtful about it.
So we also have a story on pro wrestling appearing in the Time magazine. This is more proof about showing how wrestling is starting to transcend into popular culture. And as of this press time in June 9th, 1998, Meltzer hasn't seen the story, but it's set to break no new ground. However, we learn articles like this become the benchmarks for media of pro wrestling. The main thing to pull away from this is Time is claiming that pro wrestling in the U.S. is a $1 billion a year business. Meltzer says a figure that is totally inflated even during today's boom period, but will become, based on it being such a prestigious magazine, regarded as gospel. wrestling goes on to be a multi-billion-dollar business and more so. And of course, wrestling has grown exponentially since this time in 1998. And obviously people can't predict where it was going. WCW would be erased from history and then AEW takes its spot. But wrestling's in a good spot. And obviously I haven't talked to you since they announced the Wembley show and the AEW wrap-up stuff. What are your thoughts about two wrestling companies being able to run stadium shows in the same year?
Listen, I'm here for it, man. It just means it just goes to show how healthy the business is right now, and that the playground is big enough for everybody to play in without hindering either or. Like you got WWE, who's this huge success. Obviously, just sold to Endeavor for massive amounts of money. Tony Khan is still running beautiful shows. An arena show for AEW, such as at Wembley Stadium, it's going to be beautiful, man. It's going to be so awesome to see. Pro wrestling's thriving again like it's 1998, and I'm loving it.
So Meltzer dives into the numbers and talks about what WWF especially was making during 1998. And he breaks down all the months, and he said May was the biggest month for house shows, with the WWF doing 16 regular shows, drawing 150,000, 112 fans, and about $2,431,000, not including the pay-per-view show in Milwaukee. He continues, the approximate company revenue for the pay-per-view show will be $2,550,000. All told, everything is about 31.5. Add $18 million in for merchandise, putting them at about $48 million. That's insane to think about, too, because that's a huge number, but it's not even close to the amount of money that WWE brings in just alone with media rights. Think about how much it costs for them to sell their product. The leverage is now in the wrestling promotions court, where it used to be the other way around.
Yeah, no, it is insane. Because I remember, like in 1998, 97, 99, even they were struggling to get like sponsors and stuff like that, big time sponsors. And then we fast forward to this year's WrestleMania, we have a Cinnamon Toast Crunch luchador match gimmick going on. Like it's insane though. Like that ain't easy to work in, and just goes to show the growth again of how big wrestling has got to where they can pull shit off like that. It's insane, man.
So we also have PCW, which is Pennsylvania Championship Wrestling. The only reason I mention this is there was a show in July that they're running. Even though Edge has made his debut, he still has to fill obligations elsewhere. And apparently it's going to be headlined by Glenn Osborne and John Rock versus Christian Cage and Sexton Hardcastle in a death match. Where is the tape of this from 7/24/1998 from Reading, Pennsylvania? This death match with Edge and Christian. Amazing.
I'm here for it. Paul Ellering or Don DeBomb Smith, if you guys are listening, you know where to find this. Get it for us, man, because I am so stoked to see this. That's insane. I never would have thought in my life I would have heard Edge working a fucking death match with Christian. It
was a precursor to WrestleMania 22, I guess, in Chicago, right? With the Foley match, I guess. That's right.
We got to tie it together.
It's
Hell yeah.
Crazy to see the two of those every team.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
No, it's insane.
All right, so we have Shawn Michaels at the WWF event for the first time since WrestleMania when they did the TV in San Antonio. And apparently the report from those who saw him is that he mentally appeared to be in better shape than a very long time. He cut his hair. He was able to sit down, stand upright for periods of time without excruciating pain, which is an improvement. According to Meltzer, Michaels doesn't want to get a back operation to fuse disc that a lot of people think he may need to return to wrestling, and just wants to rest and rehab. The timeline right now, we heard in the beginning, was months. Meltzer saying right now it's about 3 months, and he will undergo a major exam of his back to test if he can come back. It winds up being 4 years. The fact that we got a resurgence to Shawn Michaels is pretty much amazing, because it looks like they thought he was coming back, but I think a lot of people thought he never would have come back. And I think we met him in the middle a little bit with 4 years removed. I think everyone will take it.
Yeah, listen, if he would have came back sooner, I think we wouldn't have gotten the longevity of his career that we did get. I think some of his best years were, later 2000s. Obviously, I mean, guy was a workhorse. He was Mr. WrestleMania for so long, but I mean, he literally solidified his career in those later years. I think if he would have came back earlier, we would have gotten half of that. We wouldn't have seen him retiring Ric Flair. Ric Flair would have retired him, and then came out of retirement again.
So Meltzer does mention there's at least a possibility being taken seriously that he'll never wrestle again. Shawn Michaels left the building before the taping started, and there was no thought of putting him on TV, since the feeling was it didn't make sense to reintroduce the character where there would be no follow-up for months or maybe until next year. We do get Shawn Michaels the commissioner by like WrestleMania 15-ish. He plays a pretty big role there. Had to be hard for Shawn Michaels because he was the guy. You mentioned Mr. WrestleMania. He was the main guy, the ball carrier, the running back, the star player, and he's watching wrestling thrive without him.
Yeah, I mean, the better way to look at it too is at least he got maybe it was a breath of fresh air for HBK. Maybe he was able to sit back and see it through different glasses and feel a big weight off of his shoulders while he's doing it. No pun intended on the back injury, but damn, I mean, carrying that company for as long as he did, and then
Yeah.
I mean, you got to feel great going in, just being like, hey, I'm just stopping in to check out which guys got set up, and I'm going home. Like that's great, man. I'm good for him. I'm glad he got the time off and took care of himself.
And we always talk about the butterfly effect, and him leaving created this vacuum of power where somebody else had to step up. And the fact that he was gone created the opportunity for guys like The Rock, guys like Triple H, where maybe they wouldn't have gotten in the first place. And wrestling's in a better place because of his absence. Of course, you'd never wish a back injury on anybody. You wouldn't want anyone to get hurt. But I think the way things worked out, everyone would sign up, especially Shawn Michaels. He knew how, I think he, as you mentioned, had to get right mentally to make sure he was okay and then come back to the ring. Because I think he's better for it, that he had that time away from the ring.
100%, man.
So going to the July 6, 1998 newsletter, and this is following the Mick Foley complete legendary status. And I was interested in doing this because with the newsletter, I wanted to see if Meltzer could recognize the importance of what we just saw. And a lot of times when you're watching things in the moment, it's hard to realize exactly the importance. Like when we're watching things in real time, there's matches we see. If you go back to Omega versus Vikingo, maybe people 10 years from now are going to say that's the best match they've ever seen. But maybe in the moment we're seeing so much good wrestling, we don't realize how good something was, how legendary something was. But Meltzer pretty much is on par with what he thought this was. And he kind of tapped into something that I'm curious to get your take on. So obviously we're going to talk about it in a little bit, but if you guys don't know, Mick Foley was tossed off the top of Hell in a Cell in the ring 1998 and then chokeslammed through the cell where, took a nasty fall. The chair hits him in the mouth, that whole thing, an absolute car crash of a match. It really is everything the Attitude Era packed into about how many minutes? 15 minutes of just pure chaos. Yeah. But Meltzer talks about, he writes a nice little compact thing talking about the legacy of what this will leave behind. He says, so the question becomes, where does the business go from here? For Foley, sure, there's a one-way ticket right into every mythical pro wrestling Hall of Fame. And in one night, he turned himself into a bona fide all-time pro wrestling legend, a status he was pretty well close to anyway. He continues, several 100,000 people saw the match live around the world, and through the magic of videotape and endless replays, those bumps will be viewed by tens of millions before the end of the week and exponentially more before the end of time. Foley got up, and while to say he emerged unscathed would be far from the truth, but he didn't break any bones and didn't even wind up with a long hospital stay from the blows that literally could have ended his life if he'd been a few inches off from landing the first time. The scary part is not what we just saw, but what we will witness next. So I'll get into a second about his influence on wrestling and who he leaves, like everybody that's trying to top him. Meltzer seems like he's really nailing it here, that he understands the significance of what we just saw.
Yeah, no, 100%. Like I still remember, I was at my aunt and uncle's house. There was a family party, and I literally walked away, went to their TV with the black box because I knew I could watch wrestling. I knew King of the Ring was on, and I literally turned it on for this match. It was that timing, and just watching it happen, going as freaking out at 11 years old, stand up, just jaw dropped. Oh my God, Undertaker just killed Mick Foley. That's exactly what it felt like. It was insane. Yep. Obviously, we'll talk more about it, but Meltzer's dead on the money, man. I mean, he literally solidified himself as everybody's favorite pro wrestler, I think, after that. A Hall of Famer, easily. I mean, he was already absolutely destined to become that for all the shit he put himself through. And this isn't even the worst of it all, but this is crazy. And it was so profound, such a moment. It defined moments. It's insane, man.
So he continues about the legacy it leaves behind years and years. And now we have the benefit of being almost 30 years later of understanding the significance of everything that went down. And he says, as is the case with the business, a whole bunch of guys will try to emulate what is permanently etched in their mind. Just as Foley one-upped the memory of Snuka from his own childhood. We'll see more balcony dives that nobody will remember. We'll see mini take bumps off skyscrapers, which will fade from everyone's memories within hours. And one day, someone will suffer a terrible fate. Of course, pro wrestling is dangerous, and the injury rate seems to grow by the week, even without people trying to up the ante. But realistically, this business has been very lucky. While wrestlers talk about literally risking their lives, and they definitely are risking their bodies, whenever they do suicidal stunts, when we talk about deaths of active young wrestlers, they are from overdoses or auto wrecks. With all wrestling held nightly in Mexico and all the young, inexperienced guys doing crazy moves, I can only recall 1 or 2 deaths in the ring over the past 20 years. So we'll continue in a second about Foley stuff, but I still believe, like, looking at this, there's been attempts, of course. They do crazy stuff. They do the stacks of the light tubes, the glass, and there's been stuff that they've tried. And I know it's the original. I still don't think anything has topped this. This still lives forever because there's no safety net. They've tried their best to recreate it. Nothing ever tops the danger of what we saw that night.
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, listen, they after Foley was done with his career in WWF, WWE, they had to rechange how big the cage was to make it bigger so nobody would do this crazy shit anymore. You can point out moments, blood and guts matches, shit you seen on TNA, hardcore matches, GCW. This was different because, like I said, this was so polarizing of a moment. It literally shock, awe, a triumph because you see him come back out. You're like, he's all right. Like, this put you through so many emotions in 15 minutes that that's something hard to do. Like, Darby Allin could jump off any structure in the world, but if they don't make it this comeback hero story like they did with this match, it doesn't have the same effect, right? And like, people were really invested into the Mick Foley character because he was this broken, tortured person that was just being thrown all over the place. Vince is toying with them. Austin hates him. Undertaker's just beating the piss out of him. Nobody wants him around. Like, you really felt for Mick Foley, and that's like I said, it was the lightning caught in a bottle, man.
So Meltzer continues. He said, "But my last impression of the Taker Mankind match was, as long as I live, I can say with certainty that I will never forget the performance. And there isn't a lot about wrestling that I make the statement about. Mick Foley will be linked with Hell in a Cell more than Shawn Michaels will ever be linked with the ladder match, just as Bret Hart will never escape the link of the most disastrous night of his career, no matter what he did beforehand and what he'll end up doing for the rest of his career. Whether it wins match of the year or not, in some ways it probably shouldn't. In other ways, how can you even argue against it? Because the impression it created when it was over, it was the greatest match ever that left me sad when it was over. I really wish I had not seen it. Not because it wasn't entertaining or that it wasn't a great match. It was both. Until the thumbtacks, it was dramatic as all hell. It's funny because I'm happy for Foley because he probably on this night finally accomplished what he set out to do with his life as a child, and this gives him millions of people a memory that they'll always remember. But man, like, he left feeling sad watching this, and all's well that ends well. Foley goes on to be a legend in a lot of ways. I remember meeting Mick Foley. He came and spoke at my school. He's from Long Island, so he'd make his rounds to local elementary schools. I remember he showed up in a Winnie the Pooh baseball jersey, and he gave like a speech to everybody and talked about his book and do the book tour and all that. And he says he doesn't like talking about this because he's much more than just this moment. And I have a question for you. As far as your impression of him, we're diehard fans. Like, we watch everything with Taker and Mankind, his career. Everyone has this pivotal moment, this thing that has been created legendary status. When you think of Mick Foley, is this the moment you think of, or do you think of something different?
It was for the longest time. It really was. Like, anytime I think Foley, it was like Hell in a Cell. Obviously, the two go together like cheese and wine. But he's possibly top 3 performers for me of all time. Right? I love Mick Foley. He's done so much more outside of the Hell in the Cell that I see a lot more, but I could understand where people say, "Oh, Mankind, the guy that got thrown off Hell in a Cell." Yeah, we remember. There's a lot of stigma with that pairing, but yeah, I mean, to say that is Mick Foley, that's insane. He's done so much more above and beyond, especially through the later years. Character-wise, so comical. There was so much more that came out after this match. Like, we didn't get Rock, this is your life. Like that. Those were moments, right, man. And I'll always remember Foley just for him putting it all out there. He had 3 different characters, in the span of 2 years. It was insane. Like Mick Foley, Cactus Jack, Mankind, 4 characters for fuck's sake. Like it's insane. This dude's range and awesomeness.
And that's like the irony of the whole thing, where you're always trying to create this huge moment that stands the test of time. And when you achieve it, it almost becomes your whole legacy. I don't know. Like, I think, honestly, I'm sure he would want to take it back because of the pain that he felt and how dangerous it really was and the influence it had on the business. And I'm sure he would take it back knowing what he knows now. But it's just interesting to me because, like, you could think about anybody. They're trying to chase that big moment. And when they finally get it, it becomes everything they're remembered for instead of their whole, because Foley before this had 1995, the epic run. So about 1996, epic run, so much more. And even after this, but everyone points to this moment as the peak and what he has accomplished. For me personally, I think about him winning the title. That's me. Like when I think about Foley, I think about him winning the title, but the casual fan, that's what they think of. And that's this moment. And you can't change what people remember.
No, absolutely. Very well put.
So Meltzer ends here with this, and he says, "I'm sad and afraid, not for Foley's future, not for the business, which will survive the next set of tragedies a lot easier than the last set because fans are so desensitized. But I'm sad and afraid for someone, and nobody even knows who, that it was watching this match on TV this weekend, and in 5 or even 15 years will try to live out the dream etched in their memory and won't wind up being as lucky a man as Mick Foley." Wow. And luckily, we haven't seen anything like that happen since. I mean, we've seen stunts happen. I'm talking on like a big scale. Eventually, we took a different direction where they didn't have to up the ante anymore. We've seen them make other things like Shane McMahon doing the fall, but they've came up with ways to make it safer. You know, like we've seen Shane McMahon get tossed off the top of the Hell in a Cell. We've seen Dean Ambrose and Seth Rollins fall off the cell, but they're crash pads now. They're smarter about it, and fans want to be upset about watching that, but that's what you need. These guys are real people that can't just be taking bumps. Fully superhuman, and he'll forever have respect, not just for this, but for every bump he's ever taken on concrete, the cactus elbow on countless arena floors. Amazing.
100%. Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing too. People complaining about, you know, seeing the crash pads when Jericho falls through the stage off the top of the blood and guts cage. You're like, what do you want? Because you can't have it all. You can't have, you know, people dying on national television every 2 weeks just for ratings, or, you know, and we love these people. These people are huge influences on our life, people we look up to, admire, respect the hell out of. I don't want to see anybody get hurt. Even when Sammy got thrown off the top of the cage, you know, like you're like, wow, that's insane. Yeah, calculated risk, but still the main word there is risk, no matter what. When I think the closest thing we've gotten to this is Shane jumping off the cell, because that cell is 20 feet higher than this one. Like it's
you talk
massive.
About the Dallas Taker one, right?
Yeah, and it was just not necessary at all, especially Shane at his age. Like it was insane. But like closest moment to the Foley moment was that. But again, giant crash pad. Shane knew where to jump. He knew where to land. He knew how to land. It was calculated risk, but the risk is always still there, no matter what the fuck you're doing.
And of course, we'll talk more about this just in a little bit when we get to King of the Ring. It's the first event we're covering, so stay tuned with us. But we have to continue this newsletter. And there's a mention in the St. Paul Pioneer Press about Vince McMahon's interest in putting together a group of investors to buy the Minnesota Vikings. Jesse Ventura was on local radio claiming the entire story is made up, and Ventura has no clue what goes on in wrestling anymore. All bids have to be formally submitted by 7/1/1998, with the minimum bid being $200 million. It has to be an investment group because they figure like this is well out of McMahon's league, as during his trial it came out the most profitable year in the history of the WWF was in the $5 million to $6 million range, although the prime member of any investment group buying the team has to have at least $60 million as a down payment. Interesting how the Minnesota Vikings are tied with wrestling. Brock Lesnar tried out for the Vikings. I don't know, just like it's weird serendipity. And Vince always wanted to be involved in football in some way. Like he wound up starting the XFL shortly after this, but interesting that he wanted to have the Minnesota Vikings as they're up for sale.
Yeah, I popped because of course Jesse Ventura is calling it a conspiracy. Vince doesn't buy in the Minnesota Vikings anytime soon. Okay, that's what I'm telling you right now. It's all a big giant conspiracy. But yeah, man, Vince loves football. I don't get it honestly, but I mean, it's it's Americana. You know, Vince screams Americana. Damn it! Besides the mustache,
Yeah,
but
exactly. If
listen,
only
it's
he
cool.
could. If only Meltzer could have predicted this all these years later about Vince's mustache and rewrite it like Back to the Future, try to fix something. Someone moved a rock somewhere in some going back in the future, and it created mustache Vince coming back to haunt all of us. So we get some stuff about the Brawl for All, and this is the first mention here. A WWF attempted to do matches without a predetermined finish, which is something I never, this is Meltzer, thought I'd see in the WWF, and wonder what that means if they run in states where pro wrestling isn't regulated, where boxing or tough man contests, or as far as tax laws and the like are concerned. We don't know the name Brawl for All. We're going to see the first entry level of this coming up on these Raws. This did not hold well with the fans. I remember watching this as a kid, thinking this sucked. Your thoughts initially on the Brawl for All? I know they did the Dark Side of the Ring about it. It kind of was in the news a little bit last year, but what are your thoughts on the Brawl for All?
This was instantly, I'm going to see what's on Nitro. You know, anytime it popped up, this was channel changing time for me. I love boxing now, and especially as an adult, I fucking absolutely love boxing. It's one of my favorite things to watch. But insane, man. I thought it was a cool approach, but not like, I was like, why are the wrestlers wearing boxing gloves? Why do they change lighting, the ring? Like, none of it made sense to me at an 11-year-old mindset. I was like, fuck this. I want to see what Hogan's doing. You know, like, I want to keep up with the wrestling. That's why I'm watching, not watching for boxing. But now looking back at it, love the concept, thought it was awesome, love the Dark Side of the Ring behind it. I love Butterbean, man. This made me love and respect Butterbean like crazy. So it did accomplish its job, apparently.
So Meltzer continues about this, and there's a whole segment on this if you guys are interested. I'm sure he's going to continue to talk about it in the future newsletters. But he says there's an argument that airing shoots exposes the rest of the show as a work. But in this day and age, when people have seen shoots and works and everyone knows wrestling is a work, that argument really doesn't hold water. Meltzer continues, it does, however, risk exposing guys that are not being good fighters in real life, which is very different from participating in matches that are work. And the fact that big guys are pounding away without even staggering the other makes it weird when they bump for single punches in the future. But again, everyone knows pro wrestling itself is a work. But when none of the top guys are put at risk, there's really no harmful effect on box office to this. He uses rings, the fighting Japanese shoot style promotion as a example of this. While people are talking about this as an idea being revolutionary in pro wrestling, and it is in the US, this was done with regularity for years in All Japan Women's Promotion, where all the women in their early years had to prove themselves in kickboxing rule shoots as far as being able to handle legit combat to legitimize them as far as being pushed as wrestling stars. It's not, we know what it winds up being. It sucks. Like, I think it possibly, honestly, the UFC is one of the biggest things, and it's more popular than WWE, arguably, at this point. You can watch on pay-per-view, and people like carnage. People like seeing people get beat up, and
yeah,
it is weird. If you think about it, never really thought about having it on the same show. I always thought about the fact that you'd expose your stars, and this pretty much ended Dr. Death's whole career in WWE. But
100%.
But like, I don't know, like, it just feels weird being on the same card as worked matches, especially like Stone Cold's the toughest guy on the planet. Why is he not involved in this? It opens up weird doors.
Yeah, weird doors, answerless questions, like, it's just stupid shit. But like, I mean, I get the Vince loves variety. You know, Vince is always like, you can see it throughout the years, even when he started doing like the celebrity guest host Raws and like, let's give away $1 million every Raw, kid. It opened up a concept which was cool, but also had no place, right? Like, so you can look at it both ways. Great idea, bad follow through. Bad idea, great follow through. Like, it can go either way. But it was, looking back at it, I enjoyed the concept. It's kind of like, even watching these Raws and stuff, it was refreshing to get a little boxing in the middle of it and like see these other dudes do things that we're not accustomed to seeing them do. Like I said, I mean, we were talking before we started recording. Steve Blackman's jacked, man. I never, you don't notice it until he's in this boxing shit. You're like, damn, dude's huge. But still, weird timing. I think maybe if they thought it out better, it would have took off more. But yeah, I don't know. It was wonky. Didn't belong.
It seems like, and Meltzer was saying it here, that they're trying to build towards a Severn Shamrock worked UFC style match where they can use this to lead into it and make people believe it's real. And because they believe that they can have a huge box office. And of course, UFC is not, it's not the monster they are now. They are in a spot where they are not accepted as entertainment. They are not as fiscally beneficial for anyone getting involved with them. But Shamrock and Severin have that background. So tying that, I don't know if that was the ultimate goal, to have them become this like UFC fight on pay-per-view, but I don't know. I just think it was never going to work, especially when you're on the show with your toughest guys, your world champions not involved in this. It makes everybody look bad by proxy.
Yeah, no, a very, very solid point, man.
All right, so let's get into our fix. Let's talk about King of the Ring 1998 from the Pittsburgh Civic Center. The baby.
Get your fix.
All right, time to get our fix. King of the Ring 1998, June 28th, the Pittsburgh Civic Center, aka affectionately known as the Igloo, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Attendance being 17,087 strong in there, packing the house. They were hot from the start. We got Jim Ross and Jerry Lawler on the call, Pyro, the whole WWF. This felt like Attitude Era. Like they popped into this. This was the Attitude Era, baby.
It really did. It had that warm, comfy, grilled cheese and bowl of soup kind of feel on a cold day. Once you pop in, you just slip and get comfortable and just enjoy the show, because that's what I did. I had a blast rewatching this. This is possibly one of my favorite WWF pay-per-views of my generation, our time, man. And it held up. It was a really good fucking watch, man. Really, really good watch.
So our first match here, the Headbangers and Taka Michinoku taking on Kai and Tai. Lead us through this match. Tell me what you liked about it, what you didn't like about it. Would you have chosen this match to be an opener?
Yes. Judging by what else is on the card, my favorite part about this was Taka dressed as a headbanger. I thought the action was okay. Weird finish. I liked when they replayed the finish, like the headbangers threw Taka up in the air, slam it back down, but they're like, look at the elevation he gets, and he doesn't really get that high up in the air. Like, so it's just like, yeah, man, but good back and forth. It told the story. It was all right. Nothing fancy. Funaki he takes a hell of a Michinoku driver. It looked great. It was fun, man.
So good match, and I like that they used the opening with the young Japanese cruiserweights in the opener as they set the pace for the night. And big on Taka. You and I talked about it. Taka Michinoku has been really awesome, and the Headbangers are still a very popular team at this point. Everyone's talking about them as, everyone's popping for them. So it was a good opener. It made sense. This match to me was much better than the match they had it over the edge, which is the handicap match. And
yeah,
I thought it was a good match. I mean, honestly, we're going to eventually see Taka Michinoku have that heel turn and join Kai and Tai shortly here. But the fact that there's not a lot of fast-paced wrestlers on this card, it made the most sense to have Kai and Tai and Taka set the pace. 6 minutes and 42 seconds. Michinoku driver gets the win. He hits it on Funaki. Good match. I thought it was pretty solid.
Yeah, it wasn't over long. It was good storytelling. It was fun, man.
Little fun fact: this is the first pay-per-view match in Pittsburgh since Diesel booted Mabel in the mid-card at SummerSlam 1995. So Pittsburgh, a very big wrestling city. I was thinking about the Unforgiven 2001 match with Austin and Kurt Angle for the title that ends in I think it ends in a DQ. Is really annoying.
Yeah.
This week, Taka got some solid reactions. Very, very fun. Good opener. And this is a very memorable night going forward. So I think that's the other thing, is like you're in this and you know what's coming, and it's building towards not only the match with Kane and Austin, but this Hell in a Cell, which is only third time. The second time we're ever going to see it on pay-per-view. Yeah,
it's insane, man. But this was a great fresh opener, like hot off the presses, like really get the crowd into it. It was quick. It was action packed. I thought what's it called? Taka did a great job. I love Kai and Tai now. I'm like, they're warming up to me. I'm enjoying the fucking gimmick more and more as we're going along with it. And again, Taka dressed as a headbanger. Fucking awesome.
So we get a little time killer between the two matches. Vince comes out, talking about Austin losing the title to Kane tonight. Sable, who was reinstated, if she'd ride Vince's genetic jackhammer, introduced him. And this was simply, just as I mentioned, just building time and getting things ready for the next match, which is a semifinals match for the King of the Ring in 1998. And we have Ken Shamrock taking on Jeff Jarrett. This was pretty quick, just to set the tone for how they got there. Ken Shamrock defeated Kama Mustafa, and Jeff Jarrett defeated Farouk on episodes of Raw leading up to this. And we also had, in the qualifying round, we also had Ken Shamrock defeating Mark Henry and Jarrett defeating Mark Merrow in the first round. So we're going to get a whole bunch of lower than 10-minute matches on this card. This is another one. Obviously, the last 3 matches are going to dominate the show, and that's going to be the main story here. But this match here, this is just to build Ken Shamrock as an absolute monster, an energetic opener for this King of the Ring tournament. And I think people were really excited still. The King of the Ring tournament still had importance. It felt like they cared about who won.
Yeah.
And there was this, and Ken Shamrock gets the win with the ankle lock, 4 minutes and 47 seconds. A decent match. Tennessee Lee is pretty good at ringside. So a nice little fun, compact match, 4 minutes and 47 seconds. Really neat. They trimmed all the fat off of it.
Yeah, no, really good. And also we got to see Ken Shamrock manhandle Tennessee Lee at the end of it and slam his ass to the ground, which was great. I popped hard at it. I was like, hell yeah, about fucking time. But yeah, you know what? I'm rewatching this. I really miss how they used to handle the King of the Ring. Like that, they made it a big deal. You were watching it on the Raws beforehand, building it up really well, and then you would finish the tournament off in one night and make it good. They don't do that shit anymore, man. I wish they still would. It was a great concept, great format.
And maybe they'll do it this year, like, because obviously it's in Saudi and that's a pay-per-view that they are holding in high esteem. But you're right, it has importance since 2002, in my opinion. We had the return of King of the Ring, but I think in order to make it important, the tournament gets a shot at SummerSlam. I think that's the best way to do it.
I like it. I like it a lot.
All right, we lead into the next match here. We have Dan Severn taking on The Rock, and this was another King of the Ring first round match. And how they got there, Dan Severn defeated D'Lo Brown. The Rock beat Vader in the qualifying round. And in the first round, Dan Severn defeated Owen Hart, and Rock beat the first round. So before I let you cut this match, fun fact, we had Dan Severn making several appearances on Raw's color analyst before finally stepping in the ring. So we do remember he's the NWA, and they eventually just dropped that. But they're trying to build towards a UFC showdown with Ken Shamrock, and it just never happens. Like and also too in this match too, Severn legitimately tore D'Lo's pectoral muscle in their qualifying match on Raw leading up to this, which is why D'Lo's end up being a happy accident for them.
Yeah. No, absolutely, man. Crazy. But good, like I said, that's the King of the Ring, rich storytelling going on with it already. So good shit. But yeah, no, let's go.
All right, lead us through this match. Tell us what you liked about it.
Yeah, no, this was possibly one of my favorite Dan Severn matches because it was pretty quick. The Rock beat his ass. My favorite, I love the D'Lo spot was great. D'Lo giving him the frog splash with the chest protector, really badass. It's sold mentally, it's sold physically watching it. You can tell the Rock is just right fucking there, man. Right about the turn, right about to become the biggest star, the most electrifying star in all of sports entertainment. But very cool, man. Really made me pumped up to see him go against Shamrock in the finals. Just all around, like same thing. Trim the fat off it. It was a good match, good run-ins, good spot by D'Lo, good finish. Loved it.
Yeah, and again, this was under 5 minutes, 4 minutes and 24 seconds, and set up the finals of this year's tournament. We have, as you mentioned, Rock building up towards the heel heat. Crowd is actually kind of getting behind him, but they like to boo him. One of those sort of everyone knows their role. They're trying to boo him. And obviously, Dan Severn wasn't going to get the win over the Rock. They were building towards them going of Shamrock and the Rock. They have a built-in feud. It makes sense to have them go against each other. So Rock grabs the win with an assist with the Nation. And we move on to the finals. We get the Rock and Shamrock in the finals, and that's how we get eventually our King of the Ring. And to me, the winner of this is sort of shocking. We'll get to the match Shamrock and the Rock, but that's a little bit shocking to me that they made the booking decision to have Shamrock go over the Rock because it felt like the Rock was ticketed towards main event status. Yeah,
maybe they seen the writing on the wall and figured the Rock didn't need the win, which he didn't eventually. I mean, we pan out, but Yeah, I was just as shocked as you are.
The next match here is kind of a jobber match, but ironically, it was the longest match. Are Too Much defeated Al Snow and Head when Brian Christopher pinned Head with a bottle of Head and Shoulders. Yeah, you read that right. Head and Shoulders, the shampoo, the dandruff fighter. Is that if Al Snow lost, he has to leave WWF if he lost. Really bad match with an awful ending.
Yeah.
I mean, Al Snow has he gained a huge cult following. I love Al Snow as the ECW character. I love him what he did in WWF, but this is goofy. Like you're pinning Head with the bottle Head and Shoulders, and then you get Jerry Lawler's antics and not great. This was you have to have a snoozer in every card. There's a lot of good shit in this card. This was really bad. There's nothing good to say about it in my opinion, but whatever. This is the comedy stuff they had in the Attitude Era that gets glossed over with nostalgia glasses.
Yeah, no, and for the better, right? We don't need to see this shit. If you're looking to get through the pay-per-view quick, this is a good skipper. And it's a long match, so you're getting some time back from that.
So the next match here we have Owen Hart taking on X-Pac, which is from 1994 first round match 4 years ago, where Owen Hart eventually went on to win King of the Ring, and obviously X-Pac was 1-2-3 Kid. That's a little fun fact, but X-Pac gets the win here. I'll let you cover through it. Tell me what you liked about this match, but it was quick. Obviously, X-Pac this is his first return to the ring. He's fully cleared from the neck injury, and here we go.
Yeah, listen, this was, I know we talked about the disappointment of how Owen Hart's career has been in 1998, and it hasn't lived up to the standard. This match definitely lived up to the standard. I thought it was really good back and forth between X-Pac and Owen Hart. These guys are suited for each other, both fast-paced workers. The ring work was great, very fun. We got the badass X-Pac theme song as he's coming out. X-Pac, you fall in love with it all over again. Our favorite ring attire, the red X-Pac bone crunching action figure. Like this was just nostalgia wrapped up in a bowl for me, man. But it was so good. One of my favorite Owen Hart matches we watched so far, and yeah, I mean, of course we're getting fuckery. We got Chyna in there. She hits Owen with the DDT. X-Pac picks up the win. But still, it was very entertaining, very enjoyable. I enjoyed the shit out of it.
I had a weird moment for a second when I realized 4 years ago from this was important to his career. And this is Owen being a heel. Owen settled into being a heel with the Nation, and he's become he was goofy as a face. Like I think he's really thriving as this heel character that has great facial expressions. He has a whiny persona, and of course, he has the awesome moveset. It's Owen Hart. He's awesome in the ring.
Yeah, no, 100%, man. But I do agree. I love his heel work much more. It's not as hokey, not as gimmicky, and he just has that look of disdain on his face. Oh, he's like, oh God, get away from I love Owen's facials, man. It's so badass. But like I said, I fucking really enjoyed the shit out of this match.
Yeah, and like X-Pac would definitely get to a popularity. I don't think he's as most popular yet, and I think during this run he becomes pretty reliable for WWF and pretty exciting, and everyone during the Attitude Era loves him, which I don't understand. The X-Pac heat in 2001 where he's during the invasion where everyone talks about X-Pac heat. I don't get that personally, but I don't know. I've always loved X-Pac, and this was one of the reasons why he was awesome during this run.
Yeah, I don't know the whole story behind that either, but I did see, I think it was Shane Helms, somebody was talking about it on Twitter the other day, and they said X-Pac heat has nothing to do with X-Pac. So I was like, huh. So now I'm like really, now I got to figure out the lore, the mythicality of this story and figure that out.
Well, essentially, when people were just like sick of him, the X-Pac heat started when he was with X Factor. It was just incredible, Albert, and they would boo him just to boo him. And I remember he was the Cruiserweight champion. I remember it was not Survivor Series, but it was the lead up to Survivor Series, and he was being booed for no reason. So, and then X-Pac heat was X-Pac heat. They booed him because he was around too long. Like he stayed, and that's the reliability factor. As he came in being injured, and of course we've had a few injuries in between. Like I think for his right, if you remember that fucking
Yeah.
that disaster that happened. But there's a lot to be said about the reliability of X-Pac. Kind of made people sick of him because he was always around, I guess.
Yeah. No, listen, it being paired up with Just Incredible doesn't help anybody's cause, especially nowadays. But yeah, man, I love X-Pac.
True.
I was always a fan. Yeah.
Yo, you dealing with the X Factor.
Love the X Factor.
All right. Next match here with the New Age Outlaws taking on the New Midnight Express for the WWF Tag Team Championship. And this is the first time the WWF and NWA Tag Team Champions meet in the same pay-per-view. Not as big as it would happen in 1986, but I digress. Ironically, a couple years after being a good tag team with the Smoking, let them go head-to-head, and people forget that they are brothers in this match. No one really even talks about it during this. I had that moment of watching this, like, because the Guns are obviously, they were just AEW tag champs, and Billy Gunn is here, and there's Uncle Bart. So yeah, not a great match. 9 minutes 53 seconds, and they retain the titles with the stun gun on Bob. So what were your thoughts on this match?
I felt this was a very fatty match. More bullshit than it needed to be. Very much longer than it needed to be. They could have gave a little bit more time to any of the previous matches. I would have been happy with. But listen, as it was what it was. I'm over the new Midnight Express gimmick. It's shits. I'm ready for Bob Holly to come out, not bombastic Bob. Give me what I want, damn it. But it was okay. It was not bad. Obviously, good to see the Outlaws get a win, keep the title. So yeah, short and sweet.
Yeah, we're close. We're close to that too. Like Hardcore Holly's close, and Bart's gonna be involved in Brawl for All, so they're gonna go different ways for a bit. And Bart gets all the way to the finals until WrestleMania 15, where he gets knocked Butterbean, and that's pretty much the end of his career. But not a great match, and the Outlaws had a brief detour in their tag title run, and they're going to be pretty much at the top of the mounting for all the Attitude Era. And I know the titles get bounced around, but they are the premier tag team up until they pass the torch to Edge and Christian, the Hardys, and the Dudleys. Like, they are the team to beat.
Yeah, and even still after that, they were there making people learn and fucking helping out the business. I love the Outlaws, man.
So we get to the King of the Ring final match, and this is The Rock and Ken Shamrock. This is a rematch from WrestleMania 14. And just a brief refresher before we get into the match. Previous King of the Ring winners, the first ever King of the Ring, 1993, Bret Hart. Owen Hart won in 94, as we mentioned. Mabel in 95. Steve Austin in 96. Triple H in 97. And here we are in 1998 awaiting the winner. It's going to either be Ken Shamrock or The Rock. Ken Shamrock gets the win here. And this is exciting for two very young superstars that are gaining heat. And Triple H is on commentary for this match, which is sort of appropriate, especially with The Rock and Triple H's history and eventually where they'll go as rivals. But this was the Shamrock hit the fast track. And the next couple of months, we get a change of character, which is very interesting because which is so fascinating to me. So
yeah,
Ken Shamrock gets the win here. Ankle lock. What are your thoughts on this match throughout the whole thing?
It was a very good match. Well put together. I was shocked, literally shocked. It was like, when I watched it the first time, I was like, holy shit, Shamrock won. Such a badass. Looking at it now, Shamrock won. Like, they put him over The Rock. It's insane, like, as you were saying earlier, it just didn't make, in a booking standpoint, from us being smarty marky fans, like, it doesn't make any sense. Why wouldn't you give it to The Rock and let him become the king of the ring? But I was happy with it. I thought it was very, very fun. I love watching the intensity that Shamrock brings to the ring, which precursor to Brock Lesnar. This is your Brock Lesnar guy right now, and he's a tough little dude, man. But I thought it was a great match. I really did enjoyed it. The Rock didn't need the win, so I understand that, and it was cool to see Shamrock get the highlight. He gets the limelight for a little bit.
Yeah, and I mean, this was a solid match. The crowd was really into it. They really care about the two characters, and I think those that didn't watch in 1998 don't really understand the importance of a guy like Ken Shamrock. He was a main guy. Like, he was a main eventer, world title level guy that people don't really think of him in that light. And I think it's because he decided to go elsewhere and maybe not pursue wrestling in the same capacity that everybody else would. But I truly think he doesn't get his credit. Of course, we saw him go in the Impact Hall of Fame. The Rock inducted him. But Ken's influence, it's massive during this time. He is important to what wrestling becomes as far as that mixed martial arts influence that is so prevalent, of course, all different places, whether it be Lesnar or whether it be, even like a guy like Matt Riddle. Like, he set the bar. He's the for this.
Absolutely, man. Couldn't have been put better. Like, you're 100% on the money with it.
So we lead into the next match here, and as we mentioned before, it's Mankind and Taker in a Hell in a Cell. Before we get into the match, we definitely, everybody knows what goes on here, but we almost didn't get this match because there was actually talk about doing a third Dude Love and Steve Austin match at the show. And they might have put it in the Hell in a Cell. They might have not put it in the Hell in a Cell, but Vince and crew decided the feud probably didn't have legs to draw a third month and decided to switch things up. And in Foley's book, he said he was devastated to be taking out of the world title match, but rejuvenated to find out that he was still going to be in the Hell in a Cell. My question to you before we get into this match, what's the difference between Austin and Foley in the Hell in a Cell and then the one we got with Tate? Obviously, it's completely different. Like, I don't think they're having the same match.
No, not at all. I don't see Steve Austin climbing to the top of the cell and starting the match off up there. I don't see Austin throwing Foley off the top of the cell. I think it had to be Undertaker. Like, Undertaker is the guy that, like, he perfect opponent for this kind of match. The setting, he was in the one with Shawn. You needed, he already had history in the match, so him and Foley being paired up in there is peanut butter and jelly, man.
Absolutely, and it's a lot to cage. Starting at the top of the cage is something that's very important because it set the tone for the whole night. Terry Funk apparently gave him the idea because Foley sat down with Foley to watch. Foley sat down with Terry Funk to watch Michaels and Taker Hell in a Cell from a year back, and it was Funk's idea to start at the top of the cage. How would that sound to you if it was Terry Funk telling Mick Foley start at the top of the cage? Can you tell us how it would sound?
Oh, listen here, Mixter. You might want to take a different approach to this, and maybe bring the people out of their seats a little bit and climb to the top of the cage. Start the match at the top of the cage, brother. I like it, right? They're not a bad Terry Funk.
I love it. I figured he'd have a good Terry Funk, but what else do you say about this match? Absolute recklessness, abandon between both these guys, and the two falls definitely lose impact over time as far as, like, when you watch it removed. Like, because I think for so long we saw it in so many highlight packages, it just became part of our childhood growing up. When you see these falls watching the match, holy shit. Like, I think the second fall obviously is worse because he wasn't prepared. He goes through the top of the cell. But the fact that they planned to toss this dude through the announcer, what was the idea of what? He's so lucky he's alive because it's insane.
100%. Yeah, I even watching it when it first happened, the first initial impact when he hits the table, like, the guardrails are so damn close. His foot like, it grazes it almost. Like, it is just a fucking unbelievable thing to see. It is a masterpiece of this is cinema, damn it. No. It was beautiful. It really was. Like, it was the chaos that you come to expect from a Cactus Jack. Just the beauty of it all. He absolutely could have ended his life in a second off that first fall. The second fall, we've heard the podcast, we've heard the stories, we've heard Taker's side of it, we've heard Foley's side of it. They didn't know that shit was held up by zip ties. Like, that's insane to me. And I remember watching it, seeing the cage kind of crush in as their weights on top of it. Like, it was frightening as hell. And then he takes that bump off, or through the top of the cell. Chair comes down, cracks him in the face. Commentary is killing it. It's like, what is that in his nose? Like, it's, by God is my witness, he's broken in half. Like, it is literally possibly the best 15 minutes of pro wrestling ever. Like, and it's not even pro wrestling because you can't call that a wrestling match. That was that was the brawl for all, man. That shit was insane.
Yeah.
And it didn't even end after Foley getting thrown through the top. Like he still go. You could see the collapse. Foley talked about his legs giving out underneath him and stuff like that. But the hardest thing for me to watch in that match is when Foley's holding his arm on the side of the cell and he goes to pick up the stairs and he literally picks him up and just throws him on the ground out of frustration. And then Taker's like, fuck, I gotta hit him. Like, and he takes the steps to the arm that's all fucked up, man. And like he's still I don't know how mentally he was cognitive to do anything. And that was before the thumbtacks. Like it was insane. Layer on top of layer on top of layer. This was a chaos fucking submarine. This was a chaos hero, man.
Completely agree. And this is like the turning point of Foley. He was by wrestling fans, but this is the moment where no matter how you try to turn him heel, you couldn't turn him heel. Like at this point, he didn't try to be heel. He leaned into the humor and the ability to pop with a quick response. And this is the moment where fans didn't want to boo him anymore. And no matter how much he tried, he was a great heel. People really loved his heel work. But I think at this point, Mick Foley realized I'm beloved. And I think that also, we talk about all the different moments that came after this, but him winning the championship has to be top of the list. But man, this match is like you said. You remember too. Obviously, Taker didn't take the fall, but Taker had a broken foot in this match, and he drops down from the top of the cell on the broken foot. Absolutely chaotic match. And you mentioned before, this will never be topped, and that's why Hell in a Cell almost should have been retired after this point. Of course, we had some good ones like Cactus versus Triple H to the Royal No Way Out. I think it was after the Royal
No Way
Rumble.
Out 2001, right?
Or I think they had it at, but they've had a couple of good Hell in a Cells. We've got the Jericho Triple H Hell in a Cell, which was good. The 6-man Hell in a Cell, which was pretty good. And of course, Triple H was Taker at Mania. But when you look at a Finn Balor versus Edge at WrestleMania 39, and then this match, they're not even the same stratosphere. And like, that's not a detriment to Finn Balor or Edge or what they were able to do. It's just, this will never be topped. Why even try?
Yeah, no, 110%. Just wholeheartedly agree, man. And it's just one of those things. Like you rewatch it, and you still this is a shot of nostalgia. It really is, because you get capped. Like I was 11 again. I'm watching Foley, like eyes lit up, just like, wow, I can't believe this guy is fucking doing this. And like it was literally visually stunning, visually breathtaking. This was art, but in the most chaotic form possible, man. It was crazy.
The crazy part is, like, a lot of times when you remember stuff, you watch through rose-colored glasses and you remember it being much better than it was. This, in a lot of ways, was like absolutely better than when I last watched it, because now you can watch it with the hindsight of realizing how dangerous this was because of all the wrestling we've consumed. And there's nothing more dangerous than what we watched in this match. And the heart and soul of both these guys is legendary status. And fully that, and all the stuff that came after and before that was just as impressive. But this was like, this is a career defining moment where, like, they open up the tombs of like society thousands of years from now, and they pull up this footage like, wow, the human race was absolutely insane. Did you see this? This is insane.
I'm here for it, man. No, it's just beautiful though. I have no words of like how much this put wrestling on the map for me. This solidified my fandom for the rest of my life, because I will always, I don't know, this not, I was already a Mick Foley fan. I was already a Mankind guy. I love Dude Love, but this, I never had more respect for a wrestler at such a young age in my entire life. And this followed on fandom for years, like buying the books, dressing like Mankind to shows, buying the gold. I bought the title just because Foley won the title after this. Like this, I was like, I have to get the fucking replica. Like it needs to go. This sold me on everything. Like, and I've met Foley's one of the only wrestlers I met like a handful of times. Like I met him like 5 times. I went out of my way to meet him 5 times just to be like, thank you so much. It's crazy.
So if you guys missed it, Taker did win the match. Tombstone on Thumbtack, 17 minutes and 14 seconds, but wasn't about winning and losing. It was about this memorable moment, and it didn't matter who won it. Like, because you ask someone who won the match, I guess they would say Taker by default, but I honestly didn't remember the finish until I watched it. I remember Taker won because he was undefeated in Hell in a Cells going, well, obviously he actually lost to Shawn Michaels, so there's that point. But it was just interesting to see the finish, because you don't think of the moments, and then seeing him come back in the ring for an absolute finish. And then we didn't even mention Terry Funk's shoes popping off during the choke slam too.
Yeah, I mean, everybody was trying to kill time. Funk, a trooper. Terry Funk takes the choke slam. Fucking shoes go all up in the air. We need that in figure form. Damn it! I want a shoeless Terry Funk figure.
I love it. But we lead to the main event here. It's a first blood match for the WWF Championship. And this was interesting because Vince McMahon obviously has Austin. And we want the title off Austin and Vince is willing to even go with Kane. Like, he's like, I don't care who takes it off him at this point. I want it to be somebody. I'll take the guy who's a monster, and he'll be my
It's wild.
But he'd light himself on fire, which is insane to think about. And obviously it seemed like a foregone conclusion that Kane would win the title, but it's not out of the realm of possibility. It's Russo booking. They would have lit Kane on fire on pay-per-view, because that's possible, right?
You ain't wrong. For sure. It's crazy. I was so mad at this main event as a kid, because I was like, he's got a fucking like a 1-inch thick leather mask on. There's no way in hell he's gonna lose a first blood match. I shit all over it, and rightfully so. It was like Austin's notorious for busting himself open, bleeding all over the place. Like, we got the Bret Hart image for life, and then you get into a first blood match with Kane, and I was like, this is the shits. Like, what are they gonna do? Take his mask off? They're not unmasking Kane. He's a fucking burn victim. He's got all this shit going on. Like, there's no way in hell. I didn't buy it for a second.
You're right. I mean, this was the final obstacle. They stacked the deck the last pay-per-view, and then the same thing here. But if you look at the context of this, Kane debuts in October. Later, obviously, we talked about Austin's hospital visit just days before this with the staph infection on his elbow. Has the huge bandage on his arm. This is an important match for the storyline, and we'll see Kane's championship run be short-lived. We'll, of course, see it next week where Austin gets his title back. But it was always a foregone conclusion that Kane was winning this match, because how are you making the guy bleed? He's wearing a mask and sleeves. Like, it, man.
Drizzling shits on the ideas, but it was still an entertaining match, and we got the biggest pop in the world because Foley came out a fucking that was what I took away from this. Foley's out there, like, it's insane. The balls on that guy. Must be something in the Long Island water. Right?
Yeah. Dog. All right. So, man, this was huge storyline leading up to the pretty good pay-per-view. Like, obviously, everyone's gonna remember the moment with Mick Foley. That it lives further than a pay-per-view. Like, it's bigger than any wrestling moment up until this point. It's like it's on par with Andre getting slammed by Hogan. Like, that's the legendary status of this image. Everything about it.
I love the analysts, or I love the metaphor for it, because I think this is the Attitude Era's Hogan getting body slamming Andre. Absolutely, it was Foley getting thrown out the cell. You think of Attitude Era, one of the first mental images you got is Foley going overboard. Like, boom. So very, very, very good shit there, sir.
So we lead into the Raw after. It's June 29th, 1998, from Cleveland, Ohio, the Gund Arena, the home of the Cleveland Cavaliers. And our championship holders right now, Kane is our world champion, Intercontinental champion, still The Rock. He won it back on December 8th, 1997. World Tag Champs, the New Age Outlaws, they won it back on the 30th of March of this year. The European champion is Triple H. He won it back in March this year. And our light heavyweight champion is still Taka Michinoku. Won it back December 7th, 1997. And we get kicking off the, which is still shots, the classic still shots, because they want you to buy the replay. They show us the WWF the magazine photos, and they announced the new WWF champion being Kane. So imagine you didn't see the pay-per-view, you're waiting till Raw, and they open up the show showing highlights of Kane holding the title. It's just like surreal seeing this because no one thought Austin would be beat.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that was the blessing of the still shots because it fucked with your brain, man. You didn't see the shadiness that happened. So yeah, you see that mental image of Kane with the belt. You're like, what the hell did I miss, man? Shit, I got to order on Tuesday. Like that's how shit works.
So we get an opening segment here, and it's a red carpet in the ring. It's a ceremony here. There's the WWF title on a pedestal. Slaughter, Gerald Briscoe, all very ecstatic. And tonight they will present the WWF title to someone, apparently anyone other than Stone Cold, and that man tonight is Kane. So led to the ring by Paul Bearer. Here comes Kane, and Paul Bearer goes on and on about how hard a life Kane had to endure every week, watching WWF superstars, watching his brother become a star. After tonight, Taker will finally stand in Kane's shadow. Vince goes to put the title on Kane's waist, and we hear the glass, and it's Kane's ass. He grabs the mic from Commissioner Slaughter, and he wants a rematch with Kane tonight. Austin says, McMahon, show some guts. Grant me the match. But McMahon says that, of course, no. You're not going to get the match. Nobody has the balls to give Austin a rematch. And we, at this point, we know that that's been put on Austin. But what are your thoughts on this opening segment? Eventually, they do give Austin the rematch for the night. But what are your thoughts on this?
Listen, I thought the Vince being Vince, it's just selling the shit out of it. Our world champion has never had a sip of beer in his life. Like just trying to just throw shade at like Austin's this redneck son of a bitch. And like just trying to, he's yeah, Kane's a great guy. He's a great champion, best people ever. Fucking guy lights people on fire. Sign me up. It's awesome. But Austin pulling Austin shenanigans like, yeah, what do you ain't got the guts, Vince? Like, come on, what are you gonna do? What are you gonna you buy it? And I'm glad that they set it up to be right after right on Raw. Like you don't get that. That's another thing that's missing nowadays. If Cody showed up on Monday, it was like, no, we're doing this right now, right? And it happened. People would have lost their shit. That's a Monday night Raw after WrestleMania moment, But I like the concept of them kind of doing that right after the pay-per-view. Give me some more, man.
Do you think they booked themselves in a corner with that first blood match that they like wanted the title to stay on Austin but couldn't figure out a way to keep it on Austin, or did they want to just pop a buy rate on Raw to put it on to have a title change on Raw?
Both. Absolutely. It's Vince Russo shit. First blood match, bro. He's wearing a mask. It's gonna be great. And then they're like, well, what the fuck are we gonna do? You know what we're gonna do? We're gonna make it work. We're gonna give Austin the belt the next day. It's cool. Kane got a well-deserved title run for being such a monster he was, and I appreciate that title run more than most people that get the belt like in a shocking upset like that. So I was always like, damn, Kane's gonna be the champ for a while, and then it was just for 40 to 20 hours or something.
Yeah, and they'll wait another 12 years to put the title back on him. It won't be the WWE Championship, but it's going to be the World Heavyweight Championship. He has his run, but the only one. A guy like a character like Kane doesn't really need the world title. And where do you go from there when you have that monster as the champ? But I thought it was cool to see him hold the championship belt, even for the short period of time. Those Rangers, big eagle belt on his shoulder, the Attitude Era with the blue strap on that Kane with Paul Bearer standing next to him. It's a cool optic. But we lead into this match. The next match is Dan Drozdov versus Steven Regal. Just a quick minutes or seconds, not much to get into, but Steven Regal defeated Darren Drozdov, and Sable introduced Steven Regal to the ring at the request of McMahon. We saw in the newsletter that maybe McMahon would be managing William Regal or Steven Regal in this capacity during kind of building up to beating Austin for the championship. But this was just one of those matches that introduced Regal to the audience. The butterfly suplex leads to the Regal stretch for the submission. I love William Regal, who he is. Epic here. Great to see him. And
I was super pumped. Super excited to see Regal pop up. And it was a good match between him and Droz too. It wasn't bad. It was short. It was sweet, but Love the Regal stretch. Love fucking butterfly suplex. Like, it's good to see somebody that brings that classiness wrestling that we're so used to in WCW 1996 right here at Monday Night Raw. It was good.
So we get Michael Cole introducing the winner of the 1998 King of the Ring, and it's Ken Shamrock. And Ken Shamrock cuts a promo, says it's good to be king. And Owen Hart comes out, interrupts him, and wants you start a feud with him. And he said, I won the 1994 King of the Ring, and I want to fight you. Shamrock wants revenge and accepts the challenge for tonight. And next thing we know, another King of the Ring winner, Triple H, appears, wanting to find out who the King of the Kings is a triple threat match is made. It's kind of interesting because we know the Kings segment here for Ken Shamrock versus Owen Hart any day of the week. Add Triple H to the mix. All right, I'm into it.
Sign me up.
We get the next match here, and it is the first Brawl for All match that we're seeing here on our screens, and it's Mark Mero versus Steve Blackman. Wrestling legend Hodge brought to ringside to referee the match. Crowd's booing this almost right from the start. It goes 3 rounds with storyline that a good wrestler can beat a good box. Comes to decision, Steve Blackman advances in the Brawl for a tournament. Absolute disaster. Like, this was almost unwatchable, but for historical reference, I guess it's cool to see, but this absolute disaster. And how could it be good? Because it's just like two guys just beating the shit out of each other.
And too many rules too. The takedowns, too many the point system was all fucked up. Like, I think that's where their downfall was, especially they didn't really plan it well. But it was Steve Blackman's Jack, man. That's all I gotta say.
So we get Kevin Kelly with a goatee interviewing Kane. And he pulls out the voice box and says he can beat Stone Cold again, and he's a braver champion than Taker ever was. Kane rushes away. Paul Bearer goes after him, leaving an awkward moment between Kelly and Mankind. And you wonder to yourself, how the hell is Mick Foley in the building for Raw tonight? Are you kidding me? Like, give me the day off, bro. Like, he got on a plane and traveled.
Exactly. Like, you're fucking crazy to put that man on a plane. But listen, more the power to him. That's, I think we started seeing, like, man, Foley's got balls. Like, you're like, this guy's a tough son of a bitch. He came out, he got thrown out the cell twice. He fucking, he gets thrown in tax, and he comes out at the main event. He's back here on Raw. It's insanity, man.
So we get Val Venus defeating Dick Togo with Yamazaki in his corner. This was a squash match, but we had Dustin Runnels on commentary and just kind of building up the feud with Val Venus. This is mid-card fodder. That's with the Yamaguchi-san surprisingly looking Japanese wife in the front row. And this is building up towards choppy your pee-pee because he's getting a little bit involved with Kind Tai. So we're going to be seeing that segment very, very soon. It's coming. I think it's July.
My mind's blown, man.
All right, so we have Edge sitting in a balcony, and then we get into Warzone. It's 10 o'clock hour, and we have the King of Kings triple threat match. Lead us through this match. It's Owen Hart versus Triple H with China versus Ken Shamrock.
What a name of names in this. Holy shit. Like, it's insane, man. Really cool. Just seeing it. You get Triple H, Owen Hart, and Ken Shamrock. China's out there. Was not expecting this on a Monday Night Raw, especially the length they give. They give it 12 minutes and 50 seconds. It's insanity for a Monday Night Raw match. Usually this would be like a 6-minute half squash match, but it was really awesome to see all these guys just kind of Triple H cocky, hanging out on the ropes, doing the lounge on the top. Like, you gotta love it, man. But yeah, really cool. Good to see that Ken Shamrock they're really pressing on Shamrock being a guy, and they're hooking him up, man. He's getting a lot of good wins here, a lot of important matches, but yeah, man, I enjoyed the shit out of it. I thought it was good. What was it, 9 minutes, 39 seconds, and Shamrock got the win, man. It was fun.
Yeah, we saw The Rock come out and hit Triple H with that IC title and building up towards their ladder match at SummerSlam. Really good match, as you mentioned. This was fun. This had like a little bit of the shenanigans ringside and all that, but awesome to see this match happening on Raw. After this segment, we get the gong hitting, and out comes Taker to make a confession. Michael Cole's in the ring, and he asks why he got involved in the match between Stone Cold and Kane last night at King of the Ring. Taker says he got involved with himself on fire, so he had to do what he did. So McMahon calls Taker the most evil individual the devil ever placed on earth, and then he warns Taker not to interfere in the WWF title match tonight. And with that said, Taker heads back to the locker room. They're putting some layers in this as well. Like, obviously, Kane and Taker are feuding. Taker doesn't like Austin. Taker wants the title, but also Austin's kind of caught in the crosshairs of all this other stuff going on. It was kind of interesting to see the dynamic Taker being this tweener right now.
Yeah, no, I love the idea of it. It really that's something that we don't see a lot is layered storytelling. Like this is like a fucking 4-layer cake, like we're rich with good shit in between everything. But it was good. And Undertaker doesn't get a lot of props for his mic work and storytelling this way. Like it's usually all in ring work. This was like good, rich, fucking deep storytelling. Like this is cool, and it really gives like a different kind of flavor to what wrestling could be. I liked it. I really enjoyed it. Nice little segment.
So we get another Brawl for All match here. It's Bradshaw defeating Mark Canterbury, and again, crowd's not into it. Crowd booing this. The winner of the match was Bradshaw via decision. Not great. The only thing is Mark Canterbury, formerly known as Henry Godwin, he's wearing a Hank Williams Jr. shirt for all the country fans out there. Danny Hodges referee, no takedowns for either competitor until the third round. Crowd hates this match. I hate this match. Not great, but two legit tough guys. I mean, I guess there's like the uniqueness of the bout, but not into this myself.
No, but you imagine being a boy in the locker room. They were probably glued to the.
No, for sure. They're trying to pop the boys. I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. I could imagine everybody crowded around the TV like, man, Bradshaw's gonna fuck him. Which I mean, that's probably would have made the better match of like showing it from the back heads of everybody in the locker room going like, holy shit, this is crazy, but it's awesome, man. Like you said, it's got no place here, but it's still. I think there's more to the concept. It's better than Raw Underground. For sure.
With Omos being the bodyguard for Raw Underground with McMahon, right? That was a we get Kevin Kelly promising Taker if he plans on heeding McMahon's warning when we come back. And we also get a graphic 9 weeks until SummerSlam in New York City. We get Highway to Hell is played over the SummerSlam graphic. Really cool. Beautiful. And again, I love the poster with Austin and Taker. And we, of course, not going to see that yet, just the logo at this point, but the poster where Austin, I believe, has the Empire State Building and Taker has the Statue of Liberty, and they're brawling like they are Godzilla. Beautiful. One of SummerSlams ever. And I might be partial because I'm from the New York area, but awesome.
No, you aren't partial because I will agree with you. And I loved having Highway to Hell. Like everything was like this was matching up. They were getting licensed music now. Everything was like getting crazy. They're really beefing up these shows. It makes the blood boil. It makes the hair stick up on your skin, man. Such a good promoing by WWE's marketing team. Fuck yeah. Like
so good. And we get LOD 2000 going to ringside. Sunny is now no longer with them, and Jim Ross says she's under the weather. They bring back Paul Ellering as their manager, and apparently he's going to breathe new life into their duo again. And the DOA appear on the Titan bikes, and Ellering says he's actually here to manage the DOA now. 8-Ball and Skull beat the crap out of LOD 2000 while Ellering dismantles his Wall Street Journal, whipping his former team. And Hawk and Animal just can't. They're running WWF so far. So Paul Ellering with DOA.
Weird.
Thoughts on this?
Yeah, I'm totally good. You couldn't give Austin the DOA and save DOA. Like it is dead on arrival. Just the shits.
All right, we have the main event here. It's for the WWF Championship. It's Steve Austin versus Kane with Paul Bearer in his corner. And just like last night, Austin comes to the ring with his elbow heavily bandaged. We talked about the staph infection. It's being covered with that bandage that we talked about. As soon as the bell rings, this match is absolutely off to the races. They're beating the absolute hell out of each other. This is a really, really good main event. 8 minutes and 28 seconds. And little did we know we got a clean finish, because I think if you're watching in this era, you're expecting shady finish in some capacity to keep the title on Kane. And the crowd themselves in the Gund Arena thought the same thing. So as soon as he hits the stunner on the Stone Cold Stunner on Kane, gets the cover. When they hit 3, the pop was huge. Austin becomes champion again. Taker's now in the ring, and he turns around to swipe at Paul Bearer and turns around right into a Stone Cold Stunner. As Austin walks off, Kane and Taker simultaneously sit up and both look towards the new WWF champion. So Kane and Taker on the same page now. Really good ending, Raw. Really good brawl. This match was all over the place. Really, really good stuff.
Yeah, no, super fun. Like you forget how good of a wrestler Kane was. Rewatching some of these, and it was awesome. And the stunner pop, man, you get 2 in a row. I miss seeing that shit. Like anytime the stunner went off, like the crowd lost their fucking shit, and it still holds up to this day. It's so beautiful to see. I thought it was a really fun match. Glad Austin's got the belt back. Good dynamic with Kane and Taker, kind of like pairing up now, maybe having fun, but good, awesome view of them both sitting up like that. Loved it.
Absolutely epic as we move towards the next Raw here. It's July 6, 1998, State College, Pennsylvania, Penn State University, Bryce Jordan. And they can't run these buildings anymore, really, because they're a little bit outgrown of the college campuses. But Penn State always made for really good Raws, and they ran this for a while. This crowd was always, always hot. Big fan of this arena. When you know they're running Penn State, you know.
Yeah. No, 100%. I miss the college shows, man. I miss the intimacy of them. They were really cool. The crowds were always fucking hot as hell. And again, this was the biggest boom for pro wrestling on a Monday night. College kids were all fucking down. Let's go drink beers and go fucking watch Stone Cold blow some shit up. Hell yeah, sign me up.
So all of our champions are the same as last week, except Steve Austin is three-time champion at this point, right? He's 2-time champion because he held it from WrestleMania 14. So he's a 2-time WWF champion, but not that the reigns mean a lot during this era, but he is a 2-time champion. And we lead off after Raw ended last week. Taker is now super pissed about everything that went on. He doesn't understand why he got stunned. He comes out to the ring wanting Stone Cold, and he says now he officially wants the WWF championship. We trouble going through the doors trying to find Austin, and Austin walks right past him without an answer and heads to the ring because Austin's just that kind of guy. He's not going to sit there and talk to him through a screen. And before Austin could say anything, Mr. McMahon appears and reminds them both that, in fact, I run the WWF, and you guys both don't decide who's going to have title shots. And McMahon wants to see them tear each other apart the next pay-per-view entitled Fully Loaded, but they won't be facing each other. They will face the Monsters of Kane and Mankind in a tag team match. McMahon also announces that a number one for Austin's WWF title will be named tonight. Before he goes, McMahon reminds Austin how he feels about him being the WWF champion, and he gives him the middle finger, the best middle finger ever is awesome. I think primo middle finger for Vince McMahon is the WrestleMania 19 on the stretcher at Hulk Hogan. He's just like the awesome. 2 fingers like this.
Yeah.
But this is a good event, man. And this leads to the main event, and they tie it really, really well together. Great.
Yeah, no, I loved it. It was a great segment. I love the dynamic of Austin Taker. Very because shit's going down. You got the 2 toughest guys in the business, like top tough guys in the company going at it. Vince, I call the shots. God damn it! It's very fun, very good. Yeah, I loved it. Fucking way to kick off a Raw.
So a Brawl for All match to open Raw, and after seeing hype videos from since July 1997, we get Brackus on Raw. And Savio easily wins, busting up Brackus's nose with a score of 30-5. Thoughts on this? Because Brackus was highlighted. We saw packages from similar to Glacier. He just never came, and they debut him in a Brawl for All. Set him up for failure. Yeah. Savio Vega, legit tough guy, beat him up and won the match. And how do you go from that to you lose this in your opening match? You've been seeing vignettes for him, and now this is the first introduction to the WWF audience, and now he's gone because at this point, how to take it again in a boxing match.
Yeah. No, listen, this is the key Vince Russo booking. Like, bro, throw Brackus in there, bro. He's going to do it. Fuck him up. Get him off the TV. let Savio beat his ass, man. And that's exactly what happened. Good to see some shoot, the nose busted open. But still, the point system makes no fucking sense. So it's the Brawl for All whole system's just whack.
I agree with you, man.
It's
and
whack,
we
bro.
lead into yeah, I agree with you. So we lead into the next match, and it's a King of the Ring rematch from earlier in the week. Ken Shamrock defeating Jeff Jarrett with Tennessee Lee by DQ. Main thing here is Edge is in the crowd. Shamrock is controlling the match to start, and Tennessee Lee gets involved. But the end saw Shamrock comes back, hits a back suplex of his own. Before he can continue, we got the debut of King Mabel attacking Sheik. We won't see Mabel for long because it's not long before he joins the ministry. But Viscera, King Mabel, Big Daddy V always had a presence. People were not a fan of him being a top guy in 1995. They just weren't. But I think King Mabel, like, he kind of went on to do better things. And I know that the Viscera stuff doesn't age as well because of whatever. He becomes like the love daddy machine or whatever. But I was always, and I did like him in the ministry. I thought he had a really good look.
Yeah, no, me too. I was always over with Big Daddy V, man. I didn't like his ECW run as much, but I was a bigger fan of Viscera, especially in the ministry. It was good shit. And I love he had that like Blade kind of look. He had the bleach blonde mohawk and the white eyes, and like he had a good look, man. He was his transformation from King Mabel to Viscera, fucking night and day. Loved it.
Yeah, we covered King Mabel a little bit winning the King of the Ring during ECW because ECW and Philly took over that King of the Ring, which happened to be in Philly, and everyone was chanting for ECW. And people marked that match where he beats, I think it was Savio Vega in the finals of King of the Ring, as the match where Vince becomes aware of ECW because he's like, what are they chanting? They thought they were chanting Savio. And I think people were telling him, no, they're chanting ECW. What the hell is ECW? So that's how he's tied in. Maybe he's always had a thing for bigger guys, tall guys, fat guys, guys. And wrestling is, sometimes different personalities fit different people. And I think he has a place, especially like you shouldn't always have these jack guys. I think there needs to be like different body shapes on wrestling because that's always been the case.
I 100% agree with you. It can't all be ice cream. You need to get a little bit of donuts, got to get a little bit of buffet in there, man. But I enjoyed Viscera. I thought he was a good fucking character, great worker, did his shit right, like and he looked great. Like I said, he looked like a Batman like villain, like one of the goons that Batman would beat up on the street. Like he had that vibe to him, so it always worked with me, man.
So we get Bradshaw and Vader in a match here, but it's not really a match anymore because Bradshaw versus Vader ends in a no contest, 2 minutes long. Jim Ross informs us they have one of number one contenders facing the Outlaws next week on Raw for their title. This match goes 2 minutes, like I said, because once Kane and Mankind come out to destroy them both in 2 minutes and 7. Yeah, this was just to build up Kane and Mankind as a legitimate tag team. Beating up two tough guys like Bradshaw and Vader is how you get yourself over. So not much of a match here, more of a segment.
Yeah, but good. I like I always enjoyed the Kane and Mankind team up. It was fun. Very fun dynamics.
So we have DOA next in their debut match with Paul Ellering in their corner. DOA, 8-Ball and Skull with Paul Ellering defeated the Headbangers, Mosh and Thrasher, 3 minutes and 44 seconds. Pretty boring match. I mean, Mosh gets a hot tag. DOA prevent the stage time, and they give Mosh their double team for the win. And 3 minutes and 44 seconds. Again, this is just to introduce DOA in the new package with Paul Ellering. And the tag division, if you want to talk about history and perspective, the fact that the tag titles main event WrestleMania this year, I know it's night one. I know it's not the same as main eventing at WrestleMania on one night, but the tag division was in bad fucking shape at the hottest time of the company. This is not a good tag division.
No, 100%. Probably the worst we've seen, but DOA is not working. No matter what you do, you could put you could dig up Bruno Sammartino and put it with them. It's not going to work. There's just no fixing it, man.
So we have Terry Funk back on our screens. I'll let you lead the way. Terry Funk taking on D'Lo Brown, where it's the chest protector's on D'Lo Brown now, and he had a legit torn pec. And I think maybe at this point he might be healing, or he may. The chest protector is just as over as the character D'Lo Brown. So yeah, I love the look. Yep. I used to add the fake chest protector on that first ever bone crunching figure we had from D'Lo. But lead us through this match. Terry Funk kind of falling victim to a guy who's being pushed as a up and coming mid carder.
Yeah, no, but listen, it worked. It wasn't a bad match. I like how he's selling the chest protector, man. Very fun. Funk got some shit into. He got a pile driver. He was going back and forth. He hit the moonsault. But man, nothing pops me so much as when D'Lo hits that lowdown. The lowdown was such an impressive finish, man. When I was playing with my bone crunchers, man, everybody was doing lowdowns. Like, it was just fun to fucking do. You slam them up, bam, wrestling in the pool, do that shit, man. So very cool, very fun. I love Terry Funk, obviously, but this was just so cool to see D'Lo Brown pick up a win against the legend. And like you said, it's a short match. It's 3 minutes, 49 seconds, not long, but got the point across. Really enjoyed it.
So after the match, we have Kane and Mankind did their thing, but Taker was not to be upstage. He came out and cleaned house on the Nation of Domination, beat their ass, and even Funk sticks around to get a choke slam. He stays in his shoes this time. So Taker establishing that he's pissed off and he wants a title shot, and we're going to figure out how he's going to get it. So we go into Warzone. The transition from Raw to Warzone is always interesting, and we get out comes McMahon to the ring to announce who the number one contender is for the WWF title. He plans on introducing several people before he names the number one contender. He brings out Mankind, brings out Kane, then he brings out Taker. Vince then thanks Mankind for everything he has done here in WWF. Again, keep in mind, Mick Foley being on screen even 2 weeks removed from this stuff with Patel is insane. Next, he calls Kane one of the stupidest men he's ever seen for agreeing to give Steve Austin a rematch for the WWF title the night that he won it. But he said, I give you props, Kane, for writing that you would set yourself on fire if you did not win the title the night of King of the Ring. McMahon turns to Taker. He calls Taker evil for nearly taking Mankind's life at Hell in a Cell and for setting his own brother on fire. And McMahon says he knows that Taker wants to regain the title. And he said, since McMahon can't seem to decide, he makes a triple threat match for tonight. The lights go out as we go to commercial. So we're going to get a triple threat match. And this was kind of fair by the McMahon character. Like, oh, you thought he would have just picked his guy, but he's given them all the opportunity to do so.
No, he's setting everybody up for failure. It's
Yes.
classic Vince shit. Like, come on, no, Kane, you're an idiot. Blah blah. Like you gotta love the mannerisms with it. But yeah, a triple threat match to main event Raw. Hell yeah, sign me up. To Kane, Undertaker, Foley. I'm down.
So we have another Brawl for All match here, and it's Darren Draza versus Road Warrior Hawk, and it ended in a draw because both guys scoring 5 points on punches. After the bell, Hawk and Draza embrace and lift each other's hand. So again, it ends in a draw. The point system doesn't make sense to me. Not based in like boxing rules. There's just, I don't know. But Draza's going toe to toe with Road Warrior Hawk. That has to be like kind of little, a feather in his cap because Road Warrior Hawk, one of the toughest guys in wrestling ever.
Yeah. No, listen, I'm dying to go back and rewatch the Brawl for All Dark Side of the Ring now. Like I the whole series. This is great. But
Jim Cornette's reaction to it is always classic. Just like just done. I think that's the famous one. I mean, he says it all the time, but he says this is the one where he wants to piss on Vince Russo's grave. He wants to live long enough just after Vince Russo dies. But Mark Mero and Jacqueline head to the ring, and JR says Jackie will break her silence here tonight. There's a huge Sable chant from the crowd, and Jackie takes full responsibility for Mero's loss last week in Brawl for All against Blackman because they went 12 rounds the night before of their 2-month anniversary. So this, again, we're leading towards this, again, fully loaded moment, I believe, we're going to get the bikini contest with Sable and Jackie, which is, for my young brain, I'm 9 years old watching this, shocking to see. We get the Sable, we get both figures, right? Like Bone Cruncher figure. She's like the hard plastic with the
both were, but Jackie got the
sticky
red
hands, right? The pasties on them. My young mind couldn't handle it, but it set the tone for setting the bar high for the Miss Kitties and the moments that they would try to top, but nothing really similar to Hell in a Cell. Nothing really topped Sable and Jackie what they were able to accomplish at Fully Loaded.
100%, man. I was always a big fan of Jackie, though. She was a tough girl. She was always fun to watch. She's sweet as shit every time I met her. She was always good. But this was a nice little pairing to take the edge off of the Sable Mero thing. I like having Jackie there. Jackie and Sable go good together.
Absolutely. And we have the next match here. It's an okay match. Val Venus versus Dustin Runnels. And this is to build up more of the choppy PP. Val Venus is his feud with Kai and Tai. And of course they show us with the highlight from last week where Val Venus making a move on Mrs. Yamaguchi-san, and appears she wants Val Venus as well. And Val makes a joke about how he scored more times in Beaver Stadium than Joe Paterno, Penn State joke. And Dustin Runnels gets tired of Val Venus and trying to stick his shtick in everyone's face. And Val no-sells the inverted atomic drop and stretches Dustin out with a full Nelson using his legs. And we get the ending of the match here where Venus stands over Runnels and gyrates. Yamaguchi-san and his lovely wife put out a hit on Val, and his Kaientai accepts the offer for the DQ. 2 minutes and 38 seconds. Val Venus is beaten down by Kaientai, and this is the start of it. We're going to start getting Val Venus. He's going to be paying for his sins a little bit here. And I am so curious how this ages because I haven't seen it. I just remember seeing it and being very nervous for Val Venus.
Yeah.
But, nice little mini feud in the Attitude Era between guys with no titles on the line. It's just two guys fighting over some guy's wife.
It's great. I'm liking it so far. I am curious to see how it holds up as well because it's there's a lot of cringe going on. Surprisingly, we haven't came across too much. Like we're like, fuck, we like you can't do that ever again, So
yeah.
Maybe Choppy PP is the one that crosses the line.
So after the break, DX comes out, dresses the nation, and this you talked about crossing the line. This segment definitely crosses the line, and the cast goes Triple H as The Rock, Road Dogg playing D'Lo Brown, X-Pac as Mark Henry, Billy Gunn as D'Lo. Jason Sensation is, which we'll get. This is a great moment too with Owen Hart, and they put a fake nose on himself in China as the Beaver. And aside from obviously all the jokes, this is kind of funny, but it doesn't age well because of go back and watch it. X-Pac probably regrets a little bit about him impersonating Mark Henry here. Yeah, I'm surprised they even have this on Peacock still. I'm generally shocked that this is still out there, but yeah, different times. I guess different times.
No, absolutely. But it was still a moment. And take away the inappropriateness, especially because it was the 90s. Like, it's not acceptable, but it's, it was at different times, obviously. You can't argue that. But the segment itself, minus that, not bad. I enjoyed them, poking fun. The Croc, like you gotta love shit like that. And it was good. I liked the concept of Mizark Henry, but
yes.
Bad X-Pac. Bad X-Pac.
Well, I mean, Robert Downey Jr. did it like what 5 years after this, and that movie and stuff. So it wasn't like this type of humor was. It was bad, of course, but
yeah,
it wasn't as like, and rightfully so. It's people don't do it anymore. But I think at the time, like, we don't want to hold it against TV because it was commonplace and it shouldn't have been. But I don't I think that's why. And you wonder why, like Triple H and Shawn, like they do things and they don't ever get canceled because this exists, and Triple H is the executive of one of the highest grossing entertainment industries ever, and this is the type of stuff that you could show. I mean, but then again, you could show stuff with Linda McMahon, and she held a seat, and I mean Donald Trump got stunned at WrestleMania, so like, yeah. What are we even talking about? So I think at this point, it's just like, it's interesting to see because it doesn't age as well, but it is like, it's DX being DX, and this was pushing the limit and pushing the envelope.
100%, man. Very, very well put.
So we have Mabel in his debut match back as Mabel, not as King Mabel, taking on Ken Shamrock, and we had no mic time for Mabel to let us know why he attacked Shamrock. Jim Ross tells us that there's no more ad breaks tonight, and Mabel beats up Shamrock from the beginning using his size and reminds us all that he's king. Never seen this happen at this point, but he loses in the debut match here with a tap out. It takes two refs and Commissioner Slaughter to pull Shamrock off Mabel. After he's finished with the ankle lock, he continues to punch on Mabel until he's pounded into the ground. So much for a comeback from Mabel as a top guy. And we're going to see him as, again, Viscera. Won't be a main event guy as Viscera, but he was brought in as fodder at this point. Yeah. He debuted, came back. He used to be a top guy in the mid-90s. They tried their best to make him champion adjacent, but never happened. And he just was fed to Ken Shamrock. It just shows the upward rise of Ken Shamrock and what they wanted to put in him.
100%.
And we have the main event here. Undertaker, Kane, and Mankind in a triple threat match for the WWF Championship No More Contendership. And this match was short as hell, 2 minutes and 17 seconds. So let me break this out for you guys. So the winner of this match, as you mentioned earlier, would be the number 1 contender for the WWF title. Vince McMahon comes out. He joins JR and King at the announce table, and Stone Cold comes out to grab a headset as well. Paul Bearer waits in the ring as he's joined by Mankind and Kane. So it sounds like Austin McMahon have pretty much taken over the show. No JR. It's just them going back and forth. Undertaker never shows. McMahon gets in the ring to tell Tony Chimmel that, and Tony Chimmel like flinches at it, but he's like, you need to say he's too chicken shit. So Tony Chimmel just says, Undertaker is too chicken shit to show up tonight. And he changes the match into a no-holds-barred falls count anywhere match between just Kane and Mankind. So we don't know what happened to Taker. We're all wondering, where is he? He was just there. Mankind takes a seat over by the steps and tells McMahon that he's giving enough and won't give him any more because he won't fight his friend Kane. Vince calls for the bell. Eventually, Kane goes out of the ring, grabs a chair, and Vince wants Kane to hit Austin, but instead he turns around and hits Mankind right in the head. Oh, man, brutal shot straight to Foley's head. He rolls Mankind into the ring and pins him. 2 minutes and 16 seconds. And we're looking at Vince is okay with it because Vince is just like, all right, well, at least Kane's number contender. The mask comes off and it's Undertaker. And you can just see both Austin's face and Vince's face. Holy shit. Austin stands upstairs, daggers at Taker. Wow. And I don't know if it makes sense if you think about it. Like, how did he get his attire? All this stuff. But for the moment, we also got the Elite figure too. What was it last year came out? That awesome moment.
The Ringside Collectibles exclusive Kane Undertaker, man. It's one of the coolest figure concepts, coolest packaging. Super badass, man. But what a moment. Like, what a fucking moment. A good swerve, too, because I don't think anybody was expecting it in that arena. I don't think we were expecting it at home. When he started taking the mask off, we were all losing our shit. Like, Kane's taking his mask. What's got? Like, then you got Taker with the super badass black eye paint. And, like, it really left, like, a huge image, you know? Like, that was a moment, man. Super awesome. Fucking absolutely loved it.
The thing I remember about this and what I've noticed is Kane had such a unique way of doing things in the ring that when you watch now, I'm sure at the moment you didn't realize, but just the mannerisms is not Kane. He has such a unique way of walking. And I remember Luke Gallows dressed as Kane kind of recently or whatever it was as this like fake Kane. And it never, like, Kane was so unique. And Taker was kind of close, but no one really tops just the walk and the way he swings his arms and the things he does in the ring. And if you watch it back, if you guys go back and see this, it's really apparent that it's not Kane. And it just speaks to Kane and like the buy into his character and how much we believed everything he did in the ring. But this is awesomely well done. And also it could be good storytelling because Taker's not going to mask himself to work a different style because he is still the Undertaker under the gear. And awesome shit. And you asked the question, where's Kane too? You know what I mean? So we'll get to wait and find out next week.
It's beautiful though. Really like that was the charm of it all. He left you with questions, you know, and you're like, what the fuck's going on? And you were just jacked for it. I still like love everything we like these last the 2 episodes, King of the Ring, like unbelievable, great shit, man.
You want raw? I'll get downright nasty.
Gotta love it, bro.
Here and pick our favorite parts for these 2 episodes of Raw, and of course, King of the Ring.
The Chaser.
Dancing.
All right, Mike Belcaster. Each week, as we mentioned, we'll pick our favorite part. What is your favorite part of these 2 episodes of Raw and King of the Ring?
Brawl for all. No.
Skip this. I mean, we both know.
Listen. I'm going to add on to it though. It is obviously Foley. You know, just a masterpiece of a love letter of pro wrestling. Obviously, right? But also the intertwining of the stories, though, having Foley come out during the main event, you know, in the first blood match, having Taker there, building upon, layering that shit, like it's like a fucking beautiful. It's grandma's lasagna, man. It's fucking fantastic, you know. It really is though. They do such a good job. But obviously, if I had to pick one thing about it, it was obviously going to be the Hell in the Cell because Listen, it made me a lifelong fan of pro wrestling. And I mean that. Like Hulkamania would have died out for me in my teenage years. I was on the verge of being a teenager. This hook line sunk all the way until I'm 35 now. So kudos, Foley, Taker, Vince, fucking you guys really just absolutely fucking killed it, man.
Yeah, and they're on a roll right now. They really are. They're really hitting on every note, and it really speaks to the top of the card being so strong. And next man up is always going to be like there. Like we also talked about Rock and Triple H, and of course, my moment has to be that match and just Mick Foley at large and his legacy in wrestling. And and again, we spoke to it. If you are a wrestling fan that has been watching Foley's career, this is not the only moment that he's taking a risk like this. This is just the most prominent one on the biggest stage, but we've seen him absolutely just give his body to the business and set the bar higher and higher for guys, because whether you do hardcore matches or cage matches or death matches, everyone aspires to leave the fans both on TV and in person in awe. Like that's the goal. What you want people to just pay homage to the art of pro wrestling and what is hardcore wrestling. And nothing does that better on a big stage like this moment. And I think this will be continuing. Like this is like DiMaggio's 56 game hit streak. This is never going to be, topped, because it's one of those things where people look at Foley in another level right now. He was always a legend, but he transcended legend status to being superhuman. And I think at this point we're looking at Foley in a different light. And maybe he didn't need to do this for hardcore wrestling fans, but there's a piece of wrestling fans, casual fans, that this lives with. People have seen this clip, even if you don't watch wrestling. It exists in their mind because they, as Meltzer said, this is before YouTube, where like clips just live and go viral on social media. This was traded around. This is the next day at school where people are like, you have to come over and see this on my VHS. You have to.
Yeah. Like we're ordering the pay-per-view on Tuesday. Like get the fuck over to my house, bring some snacks, let's party. It literally was the most defining moment, I think, of the Attitude Era.
Yeah.
And all the right reasons. It was just absolutely insane. And Terry Funk lost his shoes. Just awesome.
Yeah, and the whole thing to pull away from this is that Foley's career is much more than just this moment, but at the same time, he needs to be applauded for everything that goes on before and after and the night after. He shows up to work. You want to talk about like workload management for like athletes and basketball players are sitting out because they don't want to get tired, and Mick Foley showed up to work the next day. Maybe it's not the right choice. Maybe he should have had the day off, but it's just his passion and what he gave to pro wrestling is absolutely astounding. And Meltzer talked about the legacy and what comes after, like what will wrestling be? In a lot of ways, this was a turning point where it went the opposite way, where wrestling became safer from this point in a lot of ways, where wrestling has moved away from, at this point, it took years to get away from the headshots, and it took other things to happen, tragedies to befall on the wrestling business, whether it be the Benoit thing or Owen Hart. It became more about wrestlers' safety and long-term health of these wrestlers, as we watch guys die young in their 40s, late 30s. And this moment kind of tipped it the other way. Like, I think nothing was ever going to top this. And thankfully, like, we see moments continue to impress us, and we see Jeff Hardy's going to get going soon. Like No Mercy 99 and TLC and all that crazy shit. And then Edge on fire with Foley, but nothing really tops the original. Like, this will ever be the most insane thing on a wrestling pay-per-view of all time that didn't end in tragedy. There's nothing that could ever top this, because it was so organic.
Yeah.
Because I think everything is like looking at this Hell in a Cell and trying to replicate it. This had no blueprint of the insaneness that this happened. This was the blueprint. You're writing and paving the way through for this moment. And maybe we'll see something in our lifetime, but I doubt it, man. This will live forever as the craziest thing I've ever seen on pay-per-view.
Yeah, no, you nailed it on the head, man. And it's still like shock and awe watching it. You're like, how the fuck did Foley live through this to not only tell the story again, but write best-selling author fucking books, New York Times number ones, and like had a very great career after this still too. It's insane, man. Absolutely insane.
So in on Long Island, there's the MacArthur Airport is a local airport. So like we have LaGuardia and JFK further out in Queens, and like you have to drive out there. But there's a local airport was 2 minutes from my house growing up, and MacArthur has this whole section of like famous Long Island people and people that have done things. And Mick Foley is prominently featured there on the wall. When you see there's a whole wall of things he's done and pictures of him. And
That's cool.
He's a legend here on Long Island, and people
He should be. Yeah.
So like we appreciate him, and maybe one day MJF will be there. But for right now, the bar for pro wrestling on Long Island, and as far as Long Islanders go, and it's increasingly becoming a hotbed of future stars, but the bar will forever be Mick Foley in my heart, in my soul. He's the guy. So
yeah, I love that.
And
That makes
so
me
much
very happy Mick Foley fan.
Yeah, he means so much to me because he's one of us too. Like he's the guy on video camera on top of his. We've seen the famous he's Dude Love up there doing the Jimmy Snook onto a mattress. We've all been there, but he got to live it in real time on pay-per-view in front of thousands upon millions of people on TV. So fantastic.
Yeah, beautiful.
All right, let's close the tab and preview next week. The lights are coming on the bar, and let's start our weekend off strong.
Closing the tab.
All right, closing the tab here. And as we do our final wrap up before we get into some shilling for the next 4 minutes, next week's show is episode 12, believe it or not, of season 3, airing April 21st, 2023, for the July 13th Raw, the July 20th Raw, and fully loaded 1998, wasting no time in the bullpen. We're getting right to another pay-per-view. Going to be a good time, man. And we're getting, I think we're about halfway through, a little bit more than halfway through 1998, and we are going to be, finishing strong, man. Summer is very, very good. And I think the beginning of 1998 doesn't do justice. If you see it through, and we're at this point where we're seeing why 1998 was hotter than ever.
100%, man. You could actually feel it getting better and better each time we get to sit down, do this ourselves. But holy shit, man, what a year it's been so far. We're still going strong. And I mean, this might be the peak, but we still got so much more to go through, which, I mean, a lot of highs in 1998, man.
A lot of highs, a lot of DOA, which is the low. And the mid card is, I remember the mid card much more fondly than. That's the one thing I'll pull away from here. The top of the card is just as remember, if not better. They're that strong, but the mid card leaves a lot to be desired, and the tag division. But I guess when you have, and that's what's so beautiful about what WWE is doing now with the Bloodline, is like, there's a really good mid card too. Like the mid card titles feel like they mean something, and this transcendent story of the Bloodline exists too. So we see how challenging it is to do when you put a lot of emphasis on the top of the card with Stone Cold, Kane, Mankind, Taker. It's hard to put a lot of love into the middle of the card for the lower titles, but they're doing that.
Yeah.
And at this point, we get a little love for Ken Shamrock, The Rock, Triple H. The future's bright for wrestling, but they don't even know how bright it's actually going to get. It's only going to get better and better for them.
It's crazy, man. Absolutely crazy, but awesome. I'm like I said, that King of the Ring is something that like instilled my fandom for the rest of my life, never changing. I'm always going to like wrestling from watching that Hell in the Cell match, and even rewatching it now, it was still a really great pay-per-view. And then with that on top of it, like fucking wild, absolutely wild. God damn, I love wrestling.
All I'll say is Ken Shamrock should have been world champion, especially when you're passing the title around like hot potatoes. But quickly get your shit in about Fig Night. What's coming up down the pike?
Fig Night, we're running wild, man. I just did an awesome recap of the LA. Fig Night went Hollywood. We did all that. You check out all my pictures. I got the tour of Mattel's design studios. It was an absolutely honor, absolutely insane. Unboxings galore. I just opened up AEW Unmatched Series 6. Featuring Malachi, Owen Hart. We fucking awesome that we're tying it all together. We're funding. We're trying to back the Nitro stage, man. And if you have a shot of nostalgia love like I do, and I know you do, brother, I got to see it in person. The thing is beautiful. You could tear it down and put it on that beautiful shelf behind you, or the shelf I have behind me, and make it work. But goddamn, we got to get it going. We're at 2,000 and like 11 backers going strong. I think Steve Ozer just told us that we're getting an extra figure if we hit 5K. Praise the Lord. Let's have fun with it. I'm super stoked, man.
Well, for Mike Belcast, for ACEFIELD Retro, we'll catch you guys next week. Shot Nostalgia. We love you guys.